Postman Admin 101 webinar will cover topics helpful to those who are new to the admin role, as well as those who are already managing a team but might benefit from a refresher course. My name is Harsha, and I'm a Customer Success Manager at Postman. I'll be presenting today along with my colleague Joshua Sooter, who is a Customer Success Engineer on my team. We work together on the onboarding specialization team at Postman. And before we get started, let's quickly cover off a few housekeeping questions. If you have any questions, we are going to be having a Q&A session at the end. So please feel free to submit any questions you have through the Q&A option on your Zoom. And if anyone is wondering, yes, everybody is on mute. So please use the Q&A option. The session will last somewhere between 45 minutes to about an hour. And the session is being recorded, and we'll make sure to share it with everyone that registered, both through email, and also we are going to make this available on our webinars page and also on our YouTube channel very soon. And as we head into the agenda for the day, I wanted to make sure that everyone knows what Postman is. If someone is unfamiliar or new here, or for people who are just getting started. Postman provides a collaboration framework which allows your team to develop a scalable approach to working with APIs. It's used by more than 11 million people around the globe. For many teams, Postman is an everyday tool that helps them work with APIs more efficiently. And on that note, let's head over to the agenda for the day. Today, we are going to cover topics that are important for a Postman team administrator. The team administrator is a key role in the Postman team. The team relies on the admin to have the know-hows to configure team settings, manage membership, and help organize the team's APIs. Here's what we are going to cover. Postman admins and their goals, managing your Postman team, managing content for your Postman team, which are APIs, roles and permissions, billing and upgrades. We'll also showcase some resources before doing the Q&A session. And the first topic that we have is Postman admins and their goals. Who are Postman admins and what's the primary role of a Postman admin? Postman admins are the people who enable their teams and/or organizations to work better with APIs across the lifecycle using Postman. I'm sure many of you would agree with me when I say managing API lifecycle workflows within teams has its own unique set of challenges. Teams need to maintain multiple versions of an API, assign and control ownership and permissions, and enable smooth collaboration. An admin's role here is to define and structure this whole setup. We'll talk more about how an admin achieves this in our next section, which is managing your Postman team. Here we'll be looking at how can we start setting up a Postman team and how do we invite members, how to set up authentication, SSO if applicable. We'll also look at some of the reporting and resource usage. And we'll close it out by looking at audit logs. Let me quickly switch over my screen to the Postman dashboard. So you're now seeing my Postman web dashboard, which is basically which gives me a team overview page right up here. So if I, as you can see, this page is my go-to page to start setting things up. A few things to note before we start configuring things is to notice that I have my team logo right up here, which says Wayne Enterprises. I also have a team domain that says wayne-enterprises.postman.co, which you also notice in the address bar right up here. So this is a way for us to access almost any URL within the Postman instance. And we'll know more about that in a few moments. And also a few other things to note on this page are the team summary, where you'll notice that 3 out of 10 of my user slots are used, which is I have 7 more user slots or licenses that I can distribute among my team. And I also have 1 out of 2 support roles used. And we'll just learn about that in a moment. A few things to note in the center section of my screen are the actual details of the users. So you'll notice all the users along with their email IDs in this section. As you can see, I have 3 users out of 10. Uh, you'll also notice that there are certain permissions assigned to them in terms of roles like admin, billing, and developer, and we'll get to that in our next section. We also have support user uh, in this section. Basically, the support user is a role in Postman which allows you to perform admin and billing tasks. One important thing to note is anyone you add as support users, they can't actually collaborate on APIs with the rest of the team. These 2 users are uh, basically given to every account to basically manage your team economically and maximize the number of users. So if someone is meant to just do billing and admin tasks, you need to add them as support user accounts. And the next thing that we'll look at is the team settings option, which is right here. Upon navigating to the team settings option, you'll notice that there are a few settings which will help us get started with our Postman team instance. Starting with the profile section itself, I have an option to uh, give my team a logo and a cover photo, as you can see here. I also can edit or update my team URL and my team name. We also have an option to give out favicon. So that's something to note if your team is using Postman for publishing APIs and using Postman for documentation use cases. So I'm sure all companies and organizations would want to get their brands look and feel right. So this is a place to configure that. And up next, we have an option to make the team profile public. It's currently disabled. Let's see what happens when we enable this. Making a team profile public is essentially allows you to publish your APIs on the Postman API network. So if your team has public APIs, the Postman API network is a great place to showcase them for the broader developer community to access them. And like I mentioned, all your team names and logo would come up here on the API network for people to easily notice and access them. We also give out a public profile URL, which is explore.postman.com hyphen the team domain, which will allow you to directly access your public profile on the API network. There's also an about your team section, which can be seen by anyone who visits your team profile. We also have a few options to feed in your website details and social media accounts. And this is just so that people get to know your company better. I'm saving these changes now before heading over to the next section, which is team discovery. And team discovery lets people from your organization see your team and request to join in. I'm sure you would agree with me when I say promoting collaboration across teams in an organization is one of the major goals of a Postman admin. And enabling team discovery eases the overall onboarding process by allowing users accessing Postman with their company email address to now request to join pre-existing teams within their organization. So let's see how that works. Upon turning this toggle on, you'll notice that now Postman users from @postman.com domain can see this team and request to join it. So when a user logs in using Postman, using a verified email address, they'll be able to see all the available teams within the organization and can send a request to join the team for the admin. The admin has the option to add a question that one would have to answer while requesting to join the team. The admin will receive a notification with the request and can choose to approve or decline. And this is a great way for admin to understand some of the reasons of why someone is requesting to join that particular team. And then let's head over to the custom domains. Custom domains allow you to basically serve published documentation. So if you're using Postman to publish your API documentation, you have an option to actually use a custom domain to host the documentation. As you can see, I have an option where I can add a new domain. So let's say I'm just adding api.new.com. So if I want to host my documentation, I can verify my custom domain by adding txt record and cname. And once I verify this, I can use this domain in my publishing flow of my API documentation at a later point in time. I'm not going through the whole flow now, but this is something to note. And up next, we have billing details, wherein billing details enables one to update, change the billing information that's used on invoices generated for the team, like email address, the company name, and the company address, and VAT ID if applicable. And then we have authentication, which is setting up single sign-on. Single sign-on services make it easy to manage your team's identity, adding a layer of governance. Another important advantage of enabling SSO is that it reduces phishing, thereby keeping important and sensitive information secure. The team's identity provider must support SAML 2.0 standard. This is one of the prerequisites for configuring SSO with Postman. Now let's look at how can we get this added. As you can see, I already have a few authentication methods that are set up. Now let me just add a new authentication method. As you can see, I can choose an SSO provider whose authentication I wish to configure. I'm sure you'll notice that we have listed out almost all the popular identity service providers in this list, like Okta, Ping Identity, Microsoft EDFS, and so on. So you can choose to choose any of the authentication type and give it a name. And click on proceed. But looks like I've hit my max authentication limit. So let me quickly edit one and let's say delete a method so I can add a new method. But the process is the same. So I'm choosing Ping Identity, giving it a name and clicking on proceed, which will now take me to the configuration flow where I can feed in all the service provider details and take these details and feed it into my IDP instance and get all the necessary information from my identity service provider and feed them in here, either by manually adding certain details in these boxes that show up or by just uploading a metadata file. And once we configure this, we'll just need to save the authentication and get started with SSO. An important thing to note on this page is Postman provides an option of just-in-time provisioning. So if you check this box right here, you'll notice that you can now automatically add new users using this authentication method to your team. So this would enable a very easy onboarding process for adding new users onto your Postman team. I'm not going to set this up now, so I'm going to just click configure later. And then we have roles and permissions, but we are going to cover this in our next section. So I'm going to skip this for now, and we'll come back to the manage invite links in just a moment once we actually send out a few invites. And now I'm navigating back to the manage team page, which we've been before, to start sending out invites to other members of my team. I have an option to invite users right here. And there are a few ways to start inviting people into my team. Invitations are sent to individual users. You opt to add to your Postman team. And one thing to notice, only admins are able to actually send, delete, or resend these invites. So let me actually invite a colleague of mine, Amir, onto my Postman team. So I've I've added Amir, who's my colleague, to this Postman team. There are a set of roles that I could give to him while adding his other team. Right now, I've given a developer role, but we'll cover more about what these roles mean in our coming section. So I'm sending out an invite. You'll notice that I can see that an invite is pending for Amir, and I'll be able to see if once he accepts the invite. There are a few more options to invite people. So if we plan to invite more than a couple of people to the team, generating a link and sharing it with them is a great option. So hit the get link button to generate a link and copy paste this and send them over to people through email or through Slack or Teams, whichever is the best medium for your team. And people can get added to the team by just clicking on this link. So that's another way to add people into your Postman team. And we'll go back to the team settings page where we can now manage these invite links. So invite links can be managed in this section. So you'll notice that some of the invite links that I generated can be seen here, and they have an expiry date. So it's a way to keep an eye out on what's happening with your invite link. So that's about getting started with the team settings and configuring some of the important aspects in your Postman instance. And then I'd like you all to look at the resource usage page. The resource usage page gives feature-wise usage against the limits for the current plan. Basically, this page gives useful information into the value that your team is getting out of Postman. And I think it also enables the admin to determine if the team needs to, let's say, upgrade the plan or upgrade specific resource limits by purchasing add-ons. As you can see, these resource usage limits depends on the current plan, and I'm right now on an enterprise plan. And you can also see that this usage period is for this particular billing cycle of my team, which is from 11th of October to 11th of November. Some of the features which can be checked in the resource overview page are the number of monitoring usage calls, public documentation views, custom domains, and so on. And yep, custom domains and so on. Sorry, just a second. Yep. And then let's also look at some other reporting instances that Postman gives out. And for that, let's head over to the Analyze tab on my top nav bar here, where my cursor is currently pointed out. So the Analyze or the reporting page is a way to track the team activity and also the API level activity in my specific team. So right now I'm on the team activity report, and this is a great place to look at the team overview. So this includes organizational level metrics, including the team size, when is the team created, and also gives us a lot of information about users and how users are utilizing Postman. So one of the things I specifically like here is if I drill down on team size, it gives me details about all the users. Let's say, as you can see, I can see that there's a user Josh, his email ID, his email domain, and also when was he last active. So this has useful information into the value that your team gets out of Postman, and also enables you to make important decisions about the team, and also to track and maintain progress. You'll also notice that as I scroll down, you get to know in a graphical view in terms of how many slots are used and how many slots are still up for grabs. The number of invitations sent is also seen here. You also have team activity and also workspace level details in terms of how many workspaces have been created and how many APIs are currently existing in your Postman instance and so on. You also have details about collections and also all the other elements of Postman, like monitoring, documentation, and so on. And up next, we have API level reports, where you get to see all the details of APIs in your Postman team. You'll get to know the total number of APIs your team is working with and details around that. As you can see, I get to know how many APIs are there and how many of them are being collaborated on. So I have one API in this specific team, and that's actually shared with my team. You'll also get to know that know details about API development. And when I say that, you get to know APIs by schema type. So if you have an OpenAPI 3, or let's say GraphQL, or let's say an OpenAPI 2, RAML, if you're working with different specs, you get to see a view broken down by schema type. And also you'll get to know details about mocks, monitors, tests, and documentation. So this one API that I have, I know that there are tests for this API and documentation for this API, but there are no mocks or monitors. So this is a great page to keep an eye out on all the APIs and their overview. Another interesting thing to notice, you can view reports per API. So if I drill down on, let's say, the one API that I have, which is the pet store API, you'll notice that all these APIs, you'll notice the details of this API and some of the performance metrics of this specific API. There are no metrics that are shown currently because I haven't done much work with this API. But as you can notice, you'll see average response size, response times, and so on. And that's about some of the reporting functionality of Postman. One thing to notice, this reporting is available on our Postman Enterprise plan only. And for a Postman business plan, we do have reporting, but you get another view of the reporting. So that's something to note down. And up next, I wanted to showcase audit logs. The admin has access to audit logs and can view and review important team events. Admins can look for when users were added, when an invite was sent, which users performed a specific action, when the team size was upgraded, etc. This information can give insights into the team level activities while improving security. And that's pretty much what I wanted to cover in this section. Let's look at what we have next, which is managing content within your Postman team. Let me just bring that up. All right. As you can see on my screen, we'll talk about how can you manage APIs within your Postman team. There are four main elements to think about when using Postman to define your APIs that can help you become more effective in managing all your team's APIs across different stages of development. Among these four elements, workspaces in Postman are structured in a way to help you organize your API workflows. Workspaces are the key to collaboration and a great way to keep track of progress. As you can see on my screen, workspaces, there are three elements under a workspace, which are APIs, collections, and environments. While APIs allow you to define and structure your schema, collections are there to group your requests together that allow you to document, test, mock, or monitor them. And environments help in defining variables to secure information and also to segment APIs based on stages. So without much delay, let's look at how these are actually configured or seen in the Postman application. Let me quickly switch over to my Postman application now. As you can see, I have my Postman application up now. I'm on a Mac OS application right now, and I'm on the latest version of Postman, which can be found out from the About section here, which is 7.34.0. So just like we've seen in the slide before, on my top center nav bar, I have workspaces, which will help me both create and manage my workspaces in Postman. And within each workspace, I have APIs, collections, and environments. So let's get started and try create a new workspace and see how that looks. An important thing to notice uh, as I clicked on the workspace option right here, you'll notice that I have a personal and a team workspace option. And as the name says, everything under my personal workspace is only visible to me. And this is not meant for collaboration. Anything that I do in my workspace, in the personal workspace, is meant for individual usage and is not meant for collaboration. So if I am working on any personal projects, or if I don't mean to share any stuff with the rest of the team, those are the elements that you will see in my personal workspace. However, if I toggle over to the team workspace, you'll notice that there are certain workspaces I belong to, and there are certain workspaces I can join. As you can see, I have segmented workspaces in my team based on the actual teams. The workspace for customer success, developer relations, and quality team. Let's switch over to the customer success workspace. And all the workspaces under the team workspaces are meant for collaboration with the rest of your team. So one thing to notice, by default, all the workspaces are public within your team and can be viewed and joined by anyone. Now let's create a new workspace. Let's say customer success new initiatives. So I give my workspace a name, a summary, and I'm going to invite a few people, Joshua, into my team. You'll notice that there are certain level of roles and access that I can give while inviting a person into the workspace, and we'll talk about that in a moment. But for now, what I'd like you all to notice is there's an option of workspace visibility. Like I mentioned before, by default, everyone in your team can view and join workspaces. There is an option to make it private, which will now make it an invite only workspace. So if there are any secret projects that you're working on, or if there is information or APIs that are not meant for everyone in your Postman team to see, this is a great feature to use. One thing to note here is private workspaces or invite only workspaces are available for our business and enterprise tier plans only. And now let me create a workspace. All right. Now that I created a new workspace, the next thing that we'll talk about is how can we go about organizing some of the APIs in this workspace. And for that, I'll switch back to my presentation slide. There are a few things to notice when starting to organize elements. In your Postman instance. One place to begin when thinking about organizing your collections, environments, and workspaces is by domain. Focusing on resources being delivered via APIs, and let the value of your APIs dictate how you define these fundamental building blocks of your API operations. Another aspect that can impact how you think about naming and organization of your collections, environments, and workspaces is along the lines of business. A company's products and services have evolved over time and can point to patterns and standards that can help define your APIs. Having a team centered approach, focusing on collaboration are also things to keep in mind. And ultimately, how you name and organize your collections, environments, and workspaces will be dictated by how well you've thought through the workflow of how you design, develop, document, manage, test, and monitor your APIs. There are a handful of ways in which the maturity of your workflow will dictate the structure of your development platform. And while not exhaustive, these are a few considerations for how your workflow will dictate how you approach defining your collections, environments, and workspaces. And also one important thing to note is uh, the whole structure in the Postman ecosystem is fluid. So it's not necessary to stick to one specific model of organization when you have options to always change things up when necessary as your team grows or your team changes in the way they operate and so on. And there are also a few other factors to consider when managing APIs. Versioning, stages, and governance. How you version your APIs, schemas, and other artifacts will impact the size of your collections and how you name them and how you name and organize their environments. And when we talk about stages, creating logical stages for development, QA, staging, and production will impact how your collections, environments, and workspaces come together. And governance. The maturity of your API lifecycle and how you measure, monitor, report, and engage with teams about how your APIs are delivered and operated will drive much of this conversation. Alongside all of this, with Postman roles and permissions, uh, it gives the ability to manage teams with ease. And we'll talk more about that in our next section. And before I pass it on to Josh, let's quickly cover what we've learned until now. We've covered the role of Postman admins and how to set up the team. And we have also showcased managing a Postman team, where we went through general settings, inviting people, and setting up other configuration to enable collaboration. We also talked about managing APIs in your Postman team, creating and organizing workspaces, along with some factors to consider. Now I'll turn the floor over to Josh, who will explain role-based access control, billing workflows, and showcase some support resources available on the Postman platform. Josh, it's all yours.
All right, thank you, Harsha. All right, so I want to talk about roles and permissions. So once you've added your teammates and there's content in your team workspaces, you'll need to configure access to it. Postman uses role-based access control to limit access to team resources, such as team settings and billing information. You can assign 3 roles to team members: admin, which can manage team members and team settings; billing, which can manage team plan and payments; and developer, who can access team resources and workspaces. An admin can modify roles of other team members in the web portal by clicking on Team up in the upper right-hand corner, then select Manage. Next, you want to click on the Manage Roles button. Then click Admin, Billing, or Developer next to the corresponding member to assign and unassign the roles. And then you click Save. So every team member must have at least one role. Also, and this is important, only team members with a billing role can assign the billing role to other users. If you're on a business or enterprise plan, each workspace, API, collection, and environment has its own role-based access control. You can assign 2 role types in Postman workspaces: admin, who can manage the workspace details and members, and the collaborator, who can work on team resources in a workspace. A workspace admin can modify the roles of other team members in the Postman app by finding the workspace that they want to modify, and click the ellipsis on the right and choose Edit Workspace. Click Admin or Collaborator next to the corresponding member to assign and unassign roles, and then save changes. You can set the default role for everyone who joins the workspace. Roles are set similarly in collections, APIs, environments, and you just click the ellipsis next to the collection API or environment and select Manage Roles. So I know some of you have an admin role as well as a billing role. So let's talk about billing and upgrades. Let's take a look at the billing dashboard as well as how to upgrade your team plan and add more user licenses. So users with the billing role can access the billing dashboard by clicking on Team up in the upper right and selecting Billing. From there, you can see the current plan and total license count for the team, view and set monitoring blocks, see upcoming invoices. Invoices are only available for business and enterprise plans. View account history, set payment methods, view past invoices, manage overages, add users, change the team plan, and modify add-ons. A billing user can add licenses by clicking on the Add User Slots button and then entering the number of licenses you'd like to add and then clicking Proceed. You review the change and click Pay. But let's go back and look at plan changes. Plan changes can be made by clicking the ellipsis next to Add User Slots. Select Change Plan for an immediate change or set instructions for next billing cycle to schedule changes at the end of the current term. For example, let's take a look at making an immediate change by selecting Change Plan. Here, plan, billing cycle, and team size can be adjusted. Finally, make any changes you like, and then we want to confirm and proceed. And let's look at modifying add-ons next. A billing user can also modify add-ons like adding additional monitoring blocks. To modify add-ons, you start by clicking the ellipsis next to Add User Slots, select Modify Add-ons. You want to check the box next to the add-on you'd like to modify. Then enter the number that you'd like to have. Click Review Changes, and then the last thing you do is pay an update. Okay, so here's what we covered so far. Teams, roles, and how to assign them. Developer roles and how to assign them. Roles can be assigned for teams, workspaces, collections, APIs, and environments. Account info can be found on the billing dashboard, and how to change the team plan and add licenses. And also, only users with the billing role can assign the billing role to other users. Okay, last but not least, I won't go into a ton of detail, but I do want you to know what's available to your team. First, we have an in-app boot camp, which is a training tool built into Postman app itself. It's designed to onboard developers to Postman quickly. Next is the Postman API network, where you can find a directory of public APIs curated by Postman. The purpose of the API is to kind of speed up developer onboarding for those APIs. You can literally get started with just one click. Finally, there's the Postman Support Center, where you can find Postman Learning Center, Postman Community, Postman Roadmap, and the Postman Issue Tracker on GitHub. You can also open a support ticket directly from that page. And that's at postman.com/support. After this webinar, head on over to learning.postman.com. We've created an onboarding checklist to help you set up your team. Just search for onboarding checklist and check it out. I also want to talk about the upcoming conference, formerly known as PostCon. This year we're hosting a virtual Postman Galaxy conference. From November 17th to 19th, Postman Galaxy will be the largest gathering of API users and developers. We want to inspire attendees of all the ways APIs can create new experiences and streamline business operations. Some cool speakers are going to be there. Former astronaut and first Latina to go to space, Ellen Ochoa, will be there. Also, the first day is a paid session, but second and third days are free for everyone. We'll also have hands-on workshops, technical sessions, and informational demos of what's new and what's coming. Our call for speakers is also still open. If you have a cool talk about APIs or you want to show off your collections, let us know by submitting your speaker proposal. I highly recommend that you sign up. We've also created a survey to gather your feedback on this presentation. So head over to this URL. If you go to this URL, you can complete a quick 15-minute survey and enter a chance to win an Amazon gift card. We really value your feedback, so we'd love to hear your thoughts on this webinar and get your feedback so we can improve future webinars. All right, now we're going to open it up for Q&A. And we have some questions here. Let's see. Does a user need to be a member of a workspace to change and modify roles for other users in that workspace? Yes, you do need to be a member of that workspace with the admin role. Does Postman integrate with GitHub? Yes. If you have a free Postman account, you can sync API schemas to GitHub, which will enable two-way sync between the schema stored in the GitHub repository and the schema in Postman. In addition, if you're on a Postman Team business or enterprise plan, you can also back up your collections to GitHub. You can learn more about GitHub in our blog. Also, let's see. Is there a way to restrict which workspace a team member can access? Yeah, yes, definitely can do that. Let me switch over to the Postman app, and I can show you how. All right, so basically what you do is you can go up here to your workspace. You click the little dots next to that, and you can hit edit workspace or add members. You come here, and then you can actually set the roles for members of the workspace itself. You can also make the workspace private. So if you don't want, if this is a secret project or something separate that you don't want just kind of open for everybody, you can make that private so it's not visible to just anyone. Only people who are invited to it can see it. Okay.
I see another one.
How should SSO be configured? Okay, so someone asked this, and I just wanted to kind of touch on it, but how should SSO be configured if your organization or business uses multiple teams? My understanding is that SSO settings must be set up per team separately. How can we scale this model well for multiple teams using external identity provider groups? Groups, user groups aren't implemented in Postman yet. It is on the roadmap. So if you take a look at our roadmap, which you can find a link to our roadmap at postman.com/support, you'll see it on there. So it is something that's coming. As far as the integration with SSO, I'm not sure on an ETA with that, but currently the way that most folks kind of handle that is by kind of merging their teams together into one big team, and then on like a business or an enterprise plan, and then using role-based access control to kind of configure who has access to what in which workspace. So that's kind of the most popular way to do that. As an admin of our team, I missed the feature of inactive active users. Is there a way I can get the status of users so we can manage the team effectively and remove inactive users? So yeah, currently, no, you can't get like a really good just at a glance view of who's active and who's not. There are reporting features. So if you're on an enterprise plan and you have reporting features, you can see some user data. And so there's going to be more, I think, more like that coming. So definitely keep an eye out for that type of thing coming in the near future.
And just to add on to that, Josh, I think in the enterprise tier plan, in the reporting that we give out, we do give out currently some of the last active dates of when a user was present. So like you said, that might be helpful to some extent to see who's not being very active in the team based on which some decisions can be made. So yeah.
Okay. Let's see, what else do we got here?
I got one. Is it possible to pay via invoice? The answer to that is yes. Postman business and enterprise tier plans have options where you could have custom payment options. So you could pay via invoice if you're on a Postman business or an enterprise tier. Head over to our pricing section, postman.com/pricing to know more. And we have another one. How can I see if Postman is operational? The answer to that is yes, we have a public status page, which is status.postman.com, where we publish all the status of all our operations that happen at Postman. So that's something to keep your eye out. I just posted the link on the chat as well.
All right. Yeah, I see another one. Another question: does Postman support private GitHub? And yes. So if you connect your GitHub with Postman, you should be able to sync to a repository, whether it's public or private. And I want to actually show the. Let's do this. I want to actually show that integrations page, if my Zoom controls will move out of the way here. All right, so if you go to postman.com/integrations, you should be able to find a bunch of different tools that are really handy. One was the Run in Postman button, which I kind of touched on earlier, where you can get started with just one click. That's an awesome onboarding tool. But also the integrations themselves. So, connecting to Bitbucket, connecting to GitHub, connecting to GitLab, all that stuff is found here. So postman.com/integrations, and you can find all the ways that you can kind of integrate other apps, other platforms with Postman. All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining today. And head over onto postman.com. Check out the Learning Center, check out the upcoming Galaxy conference, and make sure you fill out those surveys, give us your feedback. All right. Thank you, everyone.